This is Pulse of the Pack.
There's Bledsoe. Down he goes. And there's Reggie White. And that's that hump move. Reggie's coming again. And Reggie White. Reggie White's going to take over this game right now.
Begins the count. Takes the snap. He has the quarterback. He's able to touchdown. The Packers are out in front. 20 to 17. There's 13 seconds showing on the clock, and the Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions, NFL champions for the third straight year.
Barr lays it up for Freeman, and it's incomplete. Or did he make the catch at the 15? What are they going to roll it? He caught it. Touchdown. He did what?
We did what? We brought in a Green Bay Packer today. We have Curtis Bolton, inside linebacker, number 40, joining us. He's not only behind Jason's head, chasing down Lamar Jackson in a playoff or a preseason game, maybe in a playoff game in a Super Bowl type situation this year. Curtis, let's start. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm, happy to be here.
There you go. All righty. So thank you for coming. Obviously, you can follow Curtis on Twitter. He's at CB_Savage18. And Curtis, I want to start first of all by saying you went as an undrafted free agent. I personally had you as a 4th round pick. So for the record, I just want that out there before we get started. I've also got Jason Perrone and Paul Brettel with me. You can follow Jason. He's at Jason Perrone, and Paul, Mr. Unlimited Brettel.
Wow. Ouch.
And you can follow me at Jacob Westendorf. Curtis, let's jump right in. We appreciate you coming in, obviously, on your day off today. So let's start with everything. How's camp? How's everything going? It's obviously a weird year and it's different, but are you guys acclimating and getting everything going?
It's a strange time. I'm sure it's a strange time for everybody, that's working out there. And there's a lot of things different going into this year. And, we're just trying to make the best of it and, get in and do my job.
Well, last year you were doing your job really well. You were starting to work in with the starting defense with some pretty good competition. Blake Martinez, Oren Burks, Ty Summers, just to name a few. When did you realize, obviously, before you got injured, that you had a real shot of not just playing, but playing significantly in the defense?
I took a top 30 visit, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's before the draft. When teams want to get a better look at a guy, they fly him in, and you basically stay in whatever city the team's in for a day or two, and you just go through a few different things, whether that's more medical, going through your medical history, or meeting with coaches, meeting with just staff and whatnot, just so they can get a better feel for you. And when I came in and seeing the type of defense we run here, and just sitting down and realizing how good of a spot this was for me, and looking at the roster, seeing how well I fit in with it, and at that point I felt like I had a good shot to be a guy here.
And that kind of segues perfectly here into the next question then, and that was, how did that process? So you took that top 30 visit. Obviously, the draft goes through those 3 days. You end up going undrafted, which, like I mentioned previously, was just a complete injustice. But how does that happen then? Are you getting calls during the back half of, the late 6th, 7th round? Or how did you end up going through that process and deciding that Green Bay was the best place for you?
Like I said, just right before, I got a good feel for Green Bay when I came out here. I took a few different visits to a few teams. A few teams have flown me out just to get a better look at me, because I didn't have a lot of college tape. You try to go look at my highlights, there's not many up. It's just I was a real question mark going in. And more so towards the back of the draft, you get phone calls from all different types of coaches and whatnot before the draft, leading up to the draft, and then when the draft happens, you get a call when it's your time to go. So I'm I'm sitting at my house, you know, just watching it all unfold, you know, waiting for a call. And, you know, that's heartbreaking stuff. You know, you start getting into fourth, fifth, and that's where I thought I was going to go personally, back in the fourth, fifth round. And, you know, so I start getting excited, and, you know, you just pick after pick passes and it doesn't happen. And more so towards the end of the sixth, around the early seventh round, teams will start calling you because they got to figure out, they have to figure out their undrafted guys, you know, because after the draft ends, you know, at that point you get to pick where you want to go. So it's a lot like college in a sense that they call you, you know, tell you how they like you, what position they want you to play, you know, then you talk about, you know, signing bonus, stuff like that. And, you know, you get a call, I got a call late sixth round, and I'm all happy because it's a random area code. And, you know, the first 5 seconds of the call, they're like, this isn't us drafting, you know. Yeah. Oh, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. You know, and they're just like, yo, we don't have a draft pick for you. We're not going to draft you, but we really like you, and we would want you to come in as an undrafted guy. And I probably got maybe 8, 7, 8, 9 teams. I had chances that wanted me to come in for them, and you have to make a decision fairly quick. So it kind of all shell shocked me because I thought the decision was out of my hands. I figured someone was going to pick me up around the mid to late back end of the draft, and you know, at that point I'm pissed, and I have to sit here and look at rosters and see what's a good look for me. But luckily, you know, during those top 30 visits, I got a real good feel for a few teams, and you know, Green Bay just stood out, and you know, I seen the roster we have here, and you know, we were a little light on linebacker, and you know, I just felt like if I was gonna get an actual shot, because it's at that point it's hard to make a team. You know, you come in as an undrafted guy, who knows the opportunities you're gonna get. So, you know, I just got a good feel from the coaching staff here. I got a good feel from Coach Aludati, our linebacker coach, and you know, it came down to the point that I thought I was going to get an actual shot to play here, and I was going to get a lot of reps in camp to show that I could play ball, and you know, that's kind of what it came down to. And called them up and signed with them, and was on the plane in the next few days.
Awesome. So Curtis, last preseason training camp, you're making a ton of noise, as Jake said, pushing for the 53-man, and not just a 53-man, but playing time as well. ACL injury happened. So if you could take us through where you're at in the recovery process. And I know this week Matt LaFleur said that hoping to be on the practice field a week from today, next Saturday. When do you see yourself getting back into action?
Yeah. You know, I'm pretty much back to full go. If I got cleared and had to go into a game type situation tomorrow, I think I could fulfill my duties to the best of my ability. But it's a whole process that's, unfortunately, it's out of my hands at this point. It's a long ACL is one of those injuries that's just, it's a long process. And I'm more so on the back end of it. I've pretty much cleared all of the, you know, the jumping, the cutting, the full speed, you know, the getting out of my back pedal, stuff like that. I feel confident in my ability to do all that. Now it's a point where I have to prove that to my coaching staff and my medical staff. And, you know, that's a hard process for them because they don't want to clear you too early and you go out and get hurt again, because that makes them look bad. So at the end of the day, the decision's really out of my hands. I kind of just show up every day, do what I have to do, do what they ask me to do. And when they feel comfortable with putting me back on the field, that's kind of what happens with that. But that's where I'm at with them. They're just trying to make sure that I'm healthy enough to get back on the field. And I mean, it's up to me to show that every day. And that's kind of what I'm doing in camp right now, you know, just showing up every day, going through what they want me to go through. I'm pretty much in all team activity except for practice. I'm on the PUP list right now. It's more of a technicality thing than anything than my readiness play. But that's a decision that they have to make in the next day, week or so. I'm really pretty much as lost as everybody else is with that. I show up and go to work, and they clear me when they want to.
Sure. Well, and I know a lot of us are excited about that, to hear that you're on your way back, because like Paul said, you showed a lot last preseason. There were a lot of us that were in your corner, and you kind of talked about your versatile skill set in the past, kind of your ability to get in space, cover, rush the passer, play the run. Has that always been something that's come naturally to you? Are some of those aspects areas that you've worked harder on, maybe either in college or, hey, I'm in the pros now, to just make yourself more versatile, which is obviously a huge asset to a defense?
I didn't play off ball until my freshman year in college. I mean, as a senior, I played defensive end, stand up outside linebacker. But as the nature of my size, it was unrealistic for me to play that at a big time college. But at the end of the day, I'm a playmaker. I'm a ball player. Like, if you throw on my film, I mean, that much is evident. So when I got into college, it was kind of, I did what I had to do to get on the field. And, it was a struggle. I had to fight the same thing in college. Coaches didn't think I could play at that level. Just a whole lot of things happened. And, just throughout the years, I didn't really get to showcase my skills as a player, my progression as a player. But I always made a note of that, even if I wasn't playing on Saturdays, that I was going to get better every time I popped out on the field. And that's just the kind of person I am. And, throughout the years, I kind of developed this knack for playing in space. I'm still working on the man coverage aspect of it, but I've always been a pretty intelligent football player. I think my football instincts are something that sets me apart from a lot of other people. And that's something that with the more play time I get will become more clear to everybody else. But, in a sense of just knowing where the ball is going to go, rushing the passer, understanding what offenses are trying to do. I mean, I've felt comfortable with all those things in football for a long time. So at this point, it's more so just being comfortable with playing in space, because I really only had a year of actual live in-game full season. I've only had a year of off-ball experience. So, it's all pretty it's all pretty new to me, but I'm working through it, and I'm excited to show what I got.
Curtis, you mentioned your time in college, obviously playing at a school like Oklahoma, very rich in tradition, and a very storied team at the Pro level. Excuse me. What was your first impression like of coming to Green Bay and stepping on Lambeau Field for the first time?
Excuse me. I got a lot of the same feels as I do in Oklahoma, and that's something that I felt just as soon as I stepped foot off the bus into the stadium. It's a really fairly small town. I mean, big for this type of area, but it's a fairly small town in terms of America, and everything's just wrapped around Green Bay football. And I mean, you can see it in all the stores, all the people around. Everything's pretty centered around this, and it's the same kind of vibe you get in Oklahoma. There's not much to do in Oklahoma. Everybody kind of rides behind Sooner Nation, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And that's kind of what I felt when I got out here. And it's just, it's you can feel it in the air, you can feel it in the atmosphere. When you step in and you get around these guys and you get around these coaches, you can tell that everyone's so focused on winning football games. It's not LA, it's not Miami, it's not New York. There's not real much outside noise. And, that's something that I like. I'm a down to business type of guy. I like playing ball. That's pretty much it. I'm not into the whole celebrity scene that a lot of guys like to get into when they get at this level. I'm just trying to play ball. So, that's something that I realized when I got out here. I can keep the main thing, which one of my old high school coaches loved to tell me, that stuck with me throughout the years. And I just like to keep the main thing, and that's evident out here that football is the main thing. So it was an easy choice.
So Curtis, as a rookie coming from Oklahoma, big time school, but regardless of where players come from when they enter the NFL, there's always an adjustment. It's the level up. So for you, what was the biggest adjustment coming from college to the NFL level?
With just more so talent, that getting used to playing with and even when I was working in with, the other undrafted guys or the other rookies, when you get out there, you get so used to playing a certain brand of ball. And at Oklahoma, we didn't have a very good defense. That's no slate to my guys. I think there's a lot of talented guys on our defense throughout the years. I still think there's some talent there, but it's not the talent that I'm playing with now. So you kind of have to change your game on the fly. I'll give you an example. When I was starting to get first team reps, I'm so used to, as soon as I get a pitch action, I'm balls to the wall to the sideline.
Right.
I'm sitting watching in film and I'm like, I keep doing this and running myself out of plays. Like they're not getting outside of Zadarius. They're not getting outside of Preston. Like, let me slow down and change my game up. And it's more so of a thing like that, realizing the talent you got around you and realizing you don't have to play in certain ways you did before, because there's a lot of other guys that are picking up slack in ways that you didn't have in the past. I know a lot of guys have issues with the playbooks or the speed of the game. And, coming from Oklahoma, that's one thing that I will say about Oklahoma. They prepare you pretty well for the league. In terms of a day in the life of a daily practice or going through an off season, it was pretty much the same as Oklahoma. They run a tight ship there. Everything's pretty much the same in regards to going through my day. And playbook wise, I felt I was super prepared. I felt like I had an edge up on a lot of people because I came in, I understood a lot of the techniques that we played. At that point, it was more of a terminology thing. I just had to switch names. We called certain things different than we do here. And as soon as I picked that up, I felt like I had a good grip on it and I could keep it straight about ball. And that's kind of what happened. I feel like that's what helped me out a lot. I had already picked up a lot of stuff that they were trying to teach a lot of people. I already knew it. So, it wasn't too hard for me to acclimate.
It helps having a guy like Zadarius on the edge, doesn't it? You mentioned a coach and that had something to say that has stuck with you. Is there a particular player or coach that was really helpful in your development? I guess we'll specifically look at last summer when you were first getting in with the team. Any coaches or players that really stood out as far as being helpful or mentors?
Are you talking about in terms of Green Bay?
Yes.
It's not so much somebody that stuck out. It's so the standard that they carry here. I was told coming into the league that these are grown men. They don't care about you. Everybody's in for themselves. Like, you're going to have to go in there. Guys not going to really talk to you. They're going to do this and that. If you need help, don't go ask your teammates because they don't care. You're coming in to take their job. And that's kind of how I came in. And when I got in, I realized that it wasn't really like that. If I had a question about something, people can say what they want about Blake. Blake's a smart football player. He understood our defense for what we wanted to do. Any question I had, Blake really had the answer to. And if he didn't, I could text Coach KO any time of the night, and he'll respond to me and make sure that I understand what he's trying to teach. It was really just, I have a strong history of having my position coach being a guy that I can lean on through whatever in terms of high school and in college. So me coming to the league, that's kind of what I wanted. And that's what I got a sense of KO coming in before I decided to sign here. And he's been everything that I expect him to be. He's helped me out tremendously just with what I want to do, even the unconventional questions that he doesn't really have to answer because it doesn't have anything to do with him trying to make me a better linebacker. That just happens. Or even if I'm I'm curious about how the safeties play something. Like it has nothing to do with linebackers. Like, hey, how are the safeties taught? Like when we call this call, like what are they taught to do? Like what are they doing? He'll sit down and explain it to me until I understand it. And KO has just been a real big part of me coming along here.
Wow. That's awesome. Curtis, last one. Appreciate your time again, obviously, but there's been some other important stuff going on in your life. You just became a father, so congratulations first and foremost.
Yes,
but
sir.
what's that been like here for the last, short amount of time that you've been fortunate enough to be a dad?
It's great. It's an indescribable feeling. If you're a parent, I'm sure you understand it. I didn't understand it until he came out in the delivery room. So, it's an unreal feeling, and it kind of gave me another purpose to live. Another purpose to get up and fight for what I want to do. I'm trying to set an example for him, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
The story that came out earlier this week in The Athletic with Matt Schneidman talking about how just kind of your story and your path to not just the league, but why you chose to play even with an infant and everything like that. It was honorable, and just wanted to, not that you need my approval or anything like that, but just wanted to commend you for that. That's awesome. So
Absolutely.
He's Curtis Bolton. He's number 40 for the Green Bay Packers. He's going to be an inside linebacker here in 2020. Hopefully one of the starters if everything breaks the correct way. Curtis, we look forward to seeing you on the field this year. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we appreciate you coming by.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all having me.
Thanks,
Curtis.
Yep. All right. Y'all have a nice day.
Thanks, Curtis. That was Curtis Bolton of the Green Bay Packers. Guys, just real quick, that was awesome.
Wow.
That's
Great
phenomenal.
information.
Let me give you an example. I mean, that's a dream scenario for us. Phenomenal.
Absolutely. So it was kind of nice. It made everything easy to just sit back and let him talk.
Exactly.
So thank you to Curtis for joining us, and we appreciate him and his time, and wish him the best of luck as they start and continue onward with training camp here. Let's get rolling a little bit in some other stuff. So I mentioned earlier, I didn't want to highlight us because nobody cares about the three of us, especially when there's a pro football player in the room.
Absolutely.
But I'm your host today. I'm Jacob Westendorf. And I've got Jason Perrone. He's at Jason Perrone, and Mr. Unlimited at Paul_Brettel.
I obviously made Jacob mad at some point this week for getting that title. So
I believe what happened, Paul, was after the video of Russell Wilson came out, you said you never wanted to hear the word unlimited. So, me being the asshole that I am, has now decided that's what I'm going to introduce you guys here for the next little bit. So let's get into some of the other topics we have. The first thing is the opt-out deadline passed this week in the NFL, and the final total of players around the NFL was 69, which is very nice. The Packers only had one, Devin Funchess being the only Green Bay Packer to have opted out of the season so far. Now, in theory, they say if you're in, you're in. If you're not, you're not. Nate, thanks for joining us. CB4. Yes, we agree 100% on that. And PJ, this is a good show. We need more people to tune in. I agree with you. Tell your friends and your family. So thank you for joining us.
PJ gets it.
There we go.
He does. And Brad said loves used guys, which I read in the Jay from Jay and Silent Bob voice. So if that was your idea, then
good fellas.
Thank you. Anyways, guys, 69 was the final total. Any surprises? Anything that you guys thought that any thoughts that you guys had that was surprising off of how many people? Did you expect more? Did you expect less? I guess it's hard to know. It's not like we have a whole lot to compare this to, but I thought once I saw the number, I was like, it was a little less than what I thought. It just seemed like every day we had a few different things. The biggest names of people that opted out, you're probably looking at like Dante Hightower, Eddie Goldman, coming off the top of my head. If you guys have others, feel free to chime in on those. But yeah, that was really my only impression of the opt-outs, was just that it didn't seem like there were as many with the final total coming out the way that it did. But what did you guys think?
I thought there would be more Packers. I thought there might be a couple more at the end, and I was thrilled that there weren't. So they almost have a full slate. The only thing I'll say about the rest of the league, again, respect the decisions, understand all of that kind of stuff. Everyone's got, personal reasons for it, with the exception of New England. I just think something weird's going on there, but we don't have to get into that whole Patriots thing. I think we've roasted them enough over the years, but Paul, take it away.
Going into it, I wouldn't have even known what number to guess. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. But based on that first day, it seemed like there was a lot of names coming out, and maybe that was just because that was the first day. So with that in mind, I guess the number is a little bit lower than what I would have expected from that standpoint. But like I said, going into it, I had no clue what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was. I'm just kind of happy it's over. I know that sounds bad with the way that we're saying things like that, but I like the idea of, we could kind of move on from the drama and stuff that has come from this. Now, I'm sure that there will be more to come soon. I don't know exactly how the NFL is going to say a player. Well, Brian Gutekunst said it. The Packers are going to have positive tests. If a player has a positive test and has some effects from it, if he wants to opt out for the remainder of the season, I don't think the NFL's going to tell them they can't. I don't know how that's going to work. Right now, it says that's how that's going to work, but I don't think that's going to end up being how that works. But that was the big thing for deadlines in terms of this week. Let's go into some Zoom highlights, guys. And it's a new year. Everything's a little different. The Packers obviously are doing all of their availability via Zoom. And right now they've had a couple different guys throughout the course of the week. The first thing, I just want to go through some of those highlights. And what I noticed is that, first of all, Davante Adams, and we are very lucky as a whole, as Packers fans, that some of these guys are on our side. I mean, it's very easy to blow off the media, not answer questions. It would have been easy for Curtis Bolton to give us the same canned answers 100% of the time. They give you insight. They give you kind of a glimpse to pull back the curtains. Now, they don't give you everything, but they seem to be thoughtful and genuine, at least when they're answering their questions. So I appreciated that. Davante talking about some of the stuff he was able to talk about, the insight on whether or not he was going to play this season, kind of the same situation as Curtis Bolton with having a newer child in his life now. I thought that was an interesting thought process with him specifically. And then Aaron Rodgers' interviews are always really good. So I appreciated that as well. Paul, you mentioned before the show when we were talking, Kenny Clark making a few specific comments, and he was interviewed this week before he came on Lombardi's Bar, which you guys can check out on our YouTube channel, which is Game On Wisconsin, right across the bottom line there. Jimmy, Dan Kotnick, and Todd Varney, which I don't even know why Todd's there, but he is. So they let him in every now and again. They were able to talk to him. But before that, he mentioned a few things about Kingsley Keke. And what were some of your takeaways on that?
Yeah, I think Kenny just summarized kind of what we're all anticipating this year, because we know the run defense struggled in the NFC Championship game, obviously, but that was their worst performance. But they struggled for the entire season for the most part, outside of a few games at the end of the year. And no significant additions were made to that interior defensive line this offseason. They added Trayvon Hester. And hopefully he can come in and do something, but that's not something you're banking on either. So what Green Bay's hoping for is internal development. So when you look at internal development, Kingsley Keke comes to mind. He only took 107 snaps last year, but when he was on the field, he made some noise, especially against the run. And being someone who is known as a pass rusher coming out of Texas A&M, that's very good to see. And so he's someone that we're all hoping is going to take a step forward this year. And when asked about him, Kenny mentioned his athleticism and his ability as a pass rusher and both a run defender, and that the Packers are going to certainly be working him into the plans this year. So, he didn't really say anything that we weren't all thinking, but still it's good to hear and getting that validation from someone who lines up next to him every day in practice and on the field and all of that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is, it's a little different when an idiot like me says Kingsley Keke is going to have a big year, as opposed to Kenny Clark, who is, like you mentioned, one of his teammates. Yeah, exactly. He's Kenny Clark. Jason, going through some of the Zoom stuff, and we'll leave obviously Z and Preston alone for a little bit because we're going to get to that in a minute. But what was something that you took away from any of the availability that they had this week?
I guess it was kind of along what you introduced the whole segment with, which was, I thought, Matt LaFleur, the thing I like about LaFleur is that even though he's obviously got to protect some information within the organization, I think he tries to keep it as real as possible. And even Brian Gutekunst just being available, as somebody who saw Ted Thompson a total of 4 times in front of a microphone the entire time he was a general manager for the Packers. So it's just that. It's that transparency. And for me, it just tells me the culture is strong and they're in control of what's going on there. It's not just kind of a bunch of coach speak, but then you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. That they've got tight reins on those players, which is important in a year like this right now, because you need everybody committed to a common goal, especially when there's some additional risks that the team's going to face in just having players that are available. But you get a sense that there's a solid plan. And then, to go along with what Paul said and what you said too, to see that some of these guys really truly look primed to make a jump. I mean, I listened to Curtis there, and I'm upset with myself
Jason's
for
on a first name basis with him now.
Curtis. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Bolton, I guess. I'm sorry, I can go with that, Mr. Bolton. I mean, I guess when you're as old as I am, but
everybody's Mr. and Sir and Madam, Mr. Perone.
That's right. If you grew up in my era there back in the day, way back in the day. But I mean, I'm almost upset with myself that I didn't have him on my kind of mental roster, that, I didn't do a post or anything like that. But these guys they've got a good roster, and I think it's in really good hands. It's just that sense of leadership that I really liked that I got from both of them.
And that culture leads to, guys, I apologize. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but it leads me to something that I have argued with, and I guess a majority of what my finger on the pulse is, excuse the pun, but I'm a dad now. Dad jokes are a thing. But my Twitter mentions are a big consideration I have when I think of what people are talking about and what's going on. That's my lens into the world, if you will. And the Packers are odds-on favorites to sign Antonio Brown. And can we talk about that, please? Because Jason, you just mentioned that they have a rein on these guys. They're in control of what's going on. And in a year where you absolutely have to have control of what's going on, think about it this way, guys. There are two teams specifically that have broken the protocols that Major League Baseball has set out. The St. Louis Cardinals, screw the Cardinals, and the Miami Marlins. Those two teams broke protocol. They went out and about. They did whatever the hell they wanted to and went to clubs and, all that sort of stuff. We've talked about that before. And those are the two teams that have had outbreaks. This is a year where players, Gutekunst, LaFleur, all of them have talked about it, that they're not going to hold them prisoners and hold them hostage and fine guys or whatever if they're going out. But they have talked about how they hope positive peer pressure leads to a positive result. That was a really bad way to word that, but positive results in the locker room, not on a COVID test, obviously. So with that in mind, Antonio Brown, the guy who is throwing stuff at ice cream trucks, the guy who is throwing a tantrum about his helmet, the guy being investigated for sexual assault, he just got suspended for 8 games. Let's throw the legal situation out the window, which you can't, but let's just do that for the time being. Within the last 18 months, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Oakland Raiders. That's not exactly a pinnacle of character.
No, the Raiders.
Those two teams paid him to go away. My mom's favorite team, the New England Patriots, put up with him for 1 game before cutting him.
I can hear her keyboard right now.
There is zero. Everybody says low risk, high reward. He's a great receiver. I don't care. I don't. I would rather the Packers have to start Jake Kumerow and Blake Westendorf at wide receiver than have them sign Antonio Brown, because you want someone like that I wouldn't want to sign him in a non-COVID year, because one of the things everyone's talked about from last season, and you heard it with Curtis Bolton, the camaraderie and stuff that the team has. Signing Antonio Brown torpedoes that. That's the biggest reason the Steelers were tired of him and got rid of him. Couldn't get along with Juju Smith-Schuster. Couldn't get along with Ben Roethlisberger. Couldn't stop tweeting and Instagramming and Facebooking when the coach told him not to. And Mike Tomlin gives you plenty of rope. It's not like Mike Tomlin is Bill Belichick. So please stop saying things like that. I understand the Packers receiving core is not up to par according to the experts, and myself included, if you want to call me an expert. I understand that. Signing Antonio Brown is not an option. It should not be an option. Stop talking about it. It's not a good idea. There's nothing positive that comes out of it, because you cannot sit there with a straight face and tell me that you have any faith in this dude whatsoever to show up, shut the hell up, and play football. I apologize, guys. Do you guys have anything to add to my Antonio Brown rant?
I mean, I think you hit all the points. I mean, it was established last year inside the locker room behind Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. and just the camaraderie, as you mentioned. I think but I think that played a role in them getting to 13 wins. The relationships that they had, and to do anything that would even put that is just not a move that should be made, not anything that should ever be considered. So I'm 100% with you on this one.
Jason?
Yeah, I think it's fake news. I mean, it's just that time is the summer and everybody's getting really bored and restless, and they've had to wait a little bit longer for.
I'm going to be rich, guys. Daddy needs a trust fund.
I was going to say, I mean, if you're a defensive back or a defender and you see that little sweet face coming at you with the ball in her hands, are you going to try to tackle her? No, everyone's getting out of the way, man. She's clear to the end zone.
Listen,
no,
everyone has seen the Full House video that our social media team made for the day that we launched. Blake tackles me, and she hits pretty hard
with a smile on her face. I mean, she's like
and a giggle,
sinister.
So she likes hitting people. So I would advise against it. There you go, Brian Gutekunst, 1 year, $3 million. That's all it's going to take.
There you go.
Give me a call. I'm ready. I'm ready. So Jason, I apologize. I cut you off there. You mentioned that we hit all the points. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I can't even keep a straight face when listening to the whole. So I don't think what he's doing is funny. I'm not laughing at what he's doing. I just can't keep a straight face at thinking that the Packers would even entertain something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure I missed stuff too. Like I just remembered that he had that weird video where he called himself Mr. Big Chest. Like
that's your name for next week's show.
Being very respectful to the local police and all sorts of things that you definitely don't want had to have the risk of your players getting in trouble for. So,
correct.
Yeah, bad news.
Okay. So we can move on from that. Let's get to something that's a little sad before we go in. No fans, first 2 home games. That sucks. So home against Detroit the second week of the season, and a Monday Night Football game against Atlanta. We'll have nobody there. It's sad. I get it. I like that they are trying to reassess the situation as we get more details, because one of my least favorite things to constantly see on social media is anytime anything happens is just get rid of it. Just stop it. Well, in this case with sports, it's just cancel the season or just say there's going to be no fans. I understand that it's probably headed that direction and that's probably smart. However, I have no idea what life is going to look like on November 1st when they play the Vikings. Maybe we get a handle on it. I don't have a very strong feeling that we will, but it's possible that they do. So we'll see what happens on that. Any other thoughts on that, guys, other than this really sucks?
It does. Well, for me, it does for me. I mean, because that's a trip that I look forward to every single year. And it looks like this year it's going to be, it's in a little bit of jeopardy. I mean, we've got a lot of other games, but I know that Falcons game was one initially when we were talking, when the schedule first came out, that was potentially on the radar. I guess, it's a good thing that one did not pan out, because we would be scrambling to try to make some big time changes.
Yeah, I guess we still have a small chance of being at that Vikings game, but I'm not going to hold my breath. No. PJ wants to know, Paul, what about Russell Wilson's weird video? And Paul, PJ, does not think it's weird. He is referring to himself now as Mr. Unlimited. So that is the answer to your what about Paul's weird video? Or it's not Paul, excuse me. I'm mixing you guys up now. So Mr. Unlimited. Last thing, guys, I just want to end on a happy note. Zadarius Smith said he wants to retire as a Packer. He was available for his Zoom press conference this week, and it was hilarious, him going through everything like that. But I made a joke that I have a picture of Blake, and she's like looking up at a bottle, and that's how I picture Maggie Loney looking at Z when he's talking, is the way she looks at a bottle. So I think that the biggest thing from that press conference was when he said, when I retire here. And it's crazy to think that Jacob Morley, one of my good friends, said that, has there ever been a player after 1 year to just completely immerse himself as a Green Bay Packer? Think about it to where he's a fan favorite, and it just feels like very similar. Well, not quite similar, but the way you think of Brett Favre is a Green Bay Packer. Zadarius Smith is thought of as a Green Bay Packer after one season. 1 year. And he's so immersed in this team. If Aaron Rodgers didn't exist, you could very much argue he's the face of the team. So I very much enjoy him, and I hope he does get an opportunity to retire here. I know when you start talking about players retiring on a certain team, that's that's a tough conversation to have because Aaron Rodgers is not going to retire here, guys. Like and if Aaron Rodgers isn't going to retire here, then there's a lot of players that are probably Brett Favre didn't retire here. I mean, there's a lot of players that didn't retire as Green Bay Packers. We all want the John Elway ending where the team wins back-to-back Super Bowls and your favorite players ride off into the sunset like that, but it's just not feasible. Jason, I want to know, what is your favorite Zadarius Smith moment from just one? So you can't say all 4 sacks that he had against Minnesota. You got to pick one from last season.
Man.
I know the one. I know my one.
Well, I might steal it if you let me go first.
That would require me to shut up and listen. So I will.
There's not going to be, if not, dip should be all right. But all right, I'll do this. I was going to go with the karate kick in Minnesota. End of the season, big time win there. But I'm going to go with the first because I'm going to attribute him as the one that started this whole trend of hitting the defense in the end zone after a big play and just seeing him front and center when that happened the first time last season and just seeing his impact on the culture of the defense. I'll start with that because that was an intangible that carries over obviously not just on the field, but in the locker room and in all those places that you want to think that the team is focusing on to get prepared for each game. So I'll go with that. I'll go with Z in the camera lens, front and center, first defensive celebration last year.
Paul?
I love that pick, Jason. I'm going to go with when he gets the sack, rolls up his jersey, and he's got snubbed because he's been snubbed about a million times now. And I don't know what it needs. He was even asked this in his Zoom call, which his Zoom call was fantastic, by the way. It's everything that I was hoping and thought it would be. He's just a charismatic individual, and I don't know how you don't love the guy. But anyway, back on track here. He displays a snub. He's been snubbed, just about every ranking that's come out this offseason, and I don't know what he has to do. I mean, he led the league in pressures, 13 and a half sacks. Dude's a playmaker, and there's no signs of stopping. Snub.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because it's not, so baseball, for example, I root for the team that has the most eyes on them all the time. And people say that players in New York get overhyped because they played in New York. Shut up about Derek Jeter. I'm not going to listen to it. But the point I'm making is it's not like the Packers are just some run-of-the-mill, like the Tennessee Titans, where if they didn't play for an entire season, you probably wouldn't even notice. It's the Green Bay Packers, one of the most storied franchises. You talk about Willie Davis and Reggie White, and he plays the same position as those two guys. Like there's some pedigree there. I don't understand it. My favorite moment, 100%, because we're running short on time, is in Dallas. The Packers had lost to the Eagles 10 days prior, and Ray Lewis had said that there was no alpha dog on the Packers defense. And I hate Ray Lewis. I don't hate anybody, but I hate Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis is a blowhard, and I'm just not a fan. So I'll leave it at that. But he sacks Dak Prescott and then proceeds to mock Ray Lewis's little dance thing that he used to do before the game. And I loved it, every single second of it. So the good news is that we're going to add more moments to this, and we'll be talking about him as his Hall of Fame career comes to an end here in Green Bay because, like Z said, he wants to retire a Packer.
Well, and the picture of him holding up the Lombardi Trophy, too.
Yeah, I anticipate adding that to my back wall over here. So I've got a picture of Rodgers and Clay with the belt and everything like that. I anticipate one year that I'm going to get Zadarius Smith and Jordan Love holding up their third Lombardi trophy together. So there you go, guys. That's going to do
optimism.
it. Hey, I'm here for it. It's just like I said on my Facebook post the other day, Jordan Love had his first photo as a Packer, and I was like, hey, it looks like another Hall of Famer to me. So it's a good start. So thank you guys for joining us today. You could follow us on Twitter. We are at GameOnWI. Our Twitter and social media team in general is awesome. Shout out to them who choose to remain anonymous. You can check out our YouTube channel. It's Game On Wisconsin. And you can also find us on everything is on our website, Game On WI. So not Wisconsin, Game On WI. You won't find us if you type in Game On Wisconsin. You'll get some crappy casino in Illinois. You can follow me. I am at Jacob Westendorf. You can follow Jason. He's at Jason Perrone. And Paul Brettel, Mr. Unlimited, is at Paul_Brettel. Thank you to Curtis Bolton for joining us on the show. At CB_Savage18. Very awesome to talk with you today. Thank you guys for coming in. Joey, I agree. Zadarius press conference was amazing. Thank you guys that were in the chat. I did want to know Two, we had somebody ask earlier, since we have some merch now, who likes my hat? Because if you guys can see this, that is the Game On Wisconsin logo. This hat is black with white. Next week, I will unveil the green hat with the yellow logo. I have one of those as well. And we have some that we will be giving away. We will let you guys know on our show next week what exactly the plan is to do for that giveaway. So you could be the proud owner of one of these hats. Gentlemen, I promise I will get your guys' to you as well. So maybe we can actually match for a show. And
There we go. Beautiful.
So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you following along. Find us, like I mentioned earlier, again, one more time. Find us on Twitter. Find us on YouTube. Find us on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, whatever your preferred method is. We have it for you. And I do know, and this is what they call a tease in the business, Wednesday night at Lombardi's Bar, we might have a special friend joining us again after we had Kenny Clark this past Wednesday. So I will leave it at that and leave you guys to figure out who that might be. So thank you guys for listening. Appreciate you coming on, and we will see you next week. Go Pack Go.